Hi, y'all. It's Congressman Greg Casar, and I just want to congratulate the entire Proyecto Defensa Laboral family for such an incredible year and hope you have just as great of a Changemakers night tonight. I wish I could be with you because there is no organization like Workers' Defense Project, not just in Texas, but in the entire country. This scrappy, small group that started basically in a church basement is having not just an impact across the state, but across the country as a model of how we connect the immigrants' rights movement, the labor movement, our collective power in the South to make change from the bottom up. I wish I could be with you. I am here in Washington, D.C., and we just got done voting to stop an extreme right-wing shutdown of basic government services. And this fight that we've been in, that we actually just managed to win, at least for the next 45 days, is so connected to what I learned starting off as a baby organizer at Workers' Defense when I was still in college. Because this fight has really been about a small number of extremists trying to shut down basic services, trying to shut down the promise of democracy, trying to cut off the benefits and the fruit of our labor for normal people in order to slash taxes for the biggest corporations, in order to create more power for oligarchy in this country. But our work at Workers' Defense was always about expanding democracy for everyone and making sure that people that work get to thrive for all of the effort they put into building this society. And this fight also has been about how a small number of politicians choose to fearmonger about immigrants and the immigrant community in order to build their own power. And they were willing to shut down government services, make millions of Americans suffer, deal real damage to the economy. And they were willing to do all of that and blame the immigrant community for it. They were willing to hold the entire U.S. government hostage and ask people like the president or us Democrats in the U.S. House to give up asylum as we know it, to throw immigrants under the bus, to throw families and mothers and their kids at the border back into the river, which is literally what continues to happen right now. That's what they wanted to make into policy, and they were willing to shut the entire government down over it. But what I learned at Workers' Defense is when you organize, you can win, even against those kinds of bullies. And we united, our entire caucus said, hell no, ya basta, as we've done so many times at Workers' Defense Project. And you don't always win, but this time we won a 45-day victory where actually we were able to hold off those attacks and keep government services going without these horrific tax cuts that only benefit the wealthiest, without cutting Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare and Head Start in public schools, and without throwing immigrant families under the bus. That's something that I learned from all of you, especially from members at Workers' Defense. Muchísimas gracias por toda tu valentía, por toda tu energía, por organizar y nunca dejar de luchar. He aprendido tanto de ustedes y intento traer este espíritu directamente al Congreso de los Estados Unidos. Aprendí de ustedes en mi primera huelga de sed en el 2010. Igual hicimos una huelga de sed aquí en Washington, D.C. I learned from Workers' Defense how to organize. I went on my very first thirst strike alongside you in 2010, and we are continuing that kind of fight here in the halls of Congress with the thirst strike we recently did. And now we have a labor secretary that reaches out regularly, almost every week or two, to talk about protecting workers in Texas. It's a long way for us to have come because I remember when we were at Workers' Defense, when I was there, that we could sometimes hardly get a meeting with our mayor at the time. Most of the time when we were asking for city council to pass things, we lost way more often than we won. But those weren't real losses. They were learning opportunities. They taught us to build our organizing, build our strength. Now there's multiple offices of Workers' Defense across the state of Texas. And I get asked by people in the U.S. Congress from all over the country about the incredible organizing work that it is that you do. And so as we build that kind of power in Texas, and we make sure that the people lead and the politicians have to follow, then we will beat back things like this Death Star bill. We will beat back these attacks against immigrants and workers. And we will pass at the federal level, if we are called upon to do so, if people really organize and pressure us to hold the line and do the right thing, pass the Protecting the Right to Organize Act so that people have a right to join a union instead of making it a fight. We'll expand the diversity of our labor movement and make sure no matter who you are and where you come from, you can collectively bargain for your wages and benefits. We can make healthcare a human right. We can end the deportation of families, and make sure that we stop targeting immigrant communities and discriminating against them with a real pathway to citizenship for our community. We can raise the minimum wage. I remember when $15 an hour was the vanguard. Now that is not even enough. We've got to be talking about $17, $20 an hour minimum wage, union wage jobs, and we can save our planet while we are at it. We have to protect workers from the heat, but we cannot keep having these blistering summers and even more extreme winters. And it's going to be members at Proyecto de Defensa Laboral, folks in the union movement that come together and build a new Texas that respects everyone's rights, that is truly a democracy where people can choose their leaders rather than the other way around, and where we have a planet for generations to come built by workers that are treated well and build the new green economy. That's what we're going to do in Texas. And just like Workers' Defense has led the movement across the country, I think we're going to lead the whole country from Texas because of you all. And so please continue to support Proyecto de Defensa Laboral. You have such a special place in my heart. There's nowhere I would rather be than with you all. And so just know that my heart is with you. Muchísimas gracias.